Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The cold autumn wind blew through the military cemetery, making the flags snap and the dead leaves rustle on the ground. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Noire walked slowly down the central aisle, his boots crunching against the wet gravel. Beside him walked Sergeant Jason Turner, his body wrapped in the American flag, resting on the shoulders of two comrades. No one had dared to stop him. Those who had tried to stop him at the entrance to the military base had made a monumental mistake. A mistake that, for them, would be unforgettable. Marcus Noire was not a man to be intimidated by absurd rules or misplaced authority. Every step he took was measured, charged with silent anger and respect for the comrade he carried. His eyes, black as steel, scanned the horizon. The bare trees stood out against the gray sky, and every branch seemed to tremble before his determination. His uniform, impeccably tailored, spoke of unwavering discipline. Marcus had known war, betrayal, and loss. He had survived missions where others had perished. But carrying Jason, one of the finest soldiers he had ever known, carried a weight far greater than any battle. Around him, the other soldiers murmured in low voices, respectful but worried. No one dared to break the solemn silence surrounding Marcus. They knew that behind this facade of calm hid a man willing to do anything to honor the memory of his fallen men. Even to defy orders, even to challenge his superiors. Arriving at the grave, Marcus gently lowered Jason's body to the ground. His normally firm and steady hands trembled slightly, but it wasn't fear. It was rage. Rage at a world that was too quick to forget those who gave their all to protect others. Rage at those who had dared to tell him what he should and shouldn't do. He straightened up, his gaze fixed on the horizon, and murmured, as if to himself. "They wanted to hold me back, big mistake." That simple word echoed through the icy air like a silent warning. Marcus Noire was not a man to be manipulated or intimidated. Those who had challenged him did not yet know that this mistake would haunt them. And that day, in that silent cemetery, Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Noire swore that never again would a comrade's honor be trampled upon. The wind intensified, carrying his words skyward. War, loyalty, justice, all condensed in that moment, in the burning gaze of a man willing to face the entire world for those he loved. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Noire was back at base, his face still marked by the icy cemetery wind. His impeccable uniform bore the marks of dust and moisture from the road, but his gaze was sharper than ever. The loss of Jason Turner burned in his mind, a pain no command could soothe. In General William Harris's office, the walls adorned with flags and medals seemed to suffocate Marcus. The general, a man in his 60s with a piercing gaze, placed a thick file on him and stared at him for a long time. "Marcus, I know how you feel," Harris began, his voice firm but measured. "General, it doesn't change anything. Jason deserved better. I understand, but this mission is too dangerous. You must stay here." "That's an order." Marcus clenched his fists. Every fiber of his being screamed that he could not remain passive. To stay would be to betray the honor of his fallen men. Ignore an order? Yes. But when justice and memory are at stake, certain principles are worth more than hierarchy. He left the office without a word, leaving General Harris to ponder his choice. In the hallway, he found his loyal team, already ready to follow him on any mission. Jessica Moore, expert in cybernetics, capable of penetrating any security system. Its glasses with dark lenses hid a cold concentration and methodical. Ethan Clark, sniper, silencer, and precise, whose every gesture seemed calculated days in advance. Liam Reynolds, infiltration specialist and survival, the youngest of the team, but already a veteran of high-risk missions. "You know what that means, don't you?" Marcus asked, his deep voice echoing through the silent hangar. "Yes, Lieutenant Colonel. We'll follow you to the end, whatever happens," Jessica replied, her tone firm but respectful. The plan was simple but perilous. An area recently identified by military intelligence appeared to harbor illegal arms trafficking. Superiors had forbidden any direct intervention, fearing a diplomatic incident. But Marcus knew that silence would be complicit. As the sun set behind the hills, casting long shadows across the base, Marcus Noire gathered his team. Each member checked their equipment, silent but attentive. The glances they exchanged were heavy with promise, loyalty, courage, and determination. As the helicopter's engine roared, Marcus placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. "Stay focused. Every mistake can be fatal." Liam nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. The helicopter lifted into the twilight sky, carrying the team into the unknown. Marcus knew this mission might cost some their lives, but he also knew there was no turning back. For Jason, for honor, for justice, he had to move forward. And in that heavy silence, only the breath of the wind and the purr of the engine accompanied Marcus's promise. Those who had made the first mistake, trying to hold him back, would discover that this time there would be no mercy. Night had fallen for several hours when Marcus Noire's team flew over the restricted area. Moonlight reflected off the rugged terrain, barely revealing the outlines of abandoned buildings and deserted roads. The silence of the altitude contrasted with the palpable tension inside the helicopter. Jessica Moore, focused on her laptop screens, whispered, "The surveillance cameras are online. I can disable the systems and create a secure passage, but we'll only have a few minutes before they notice the anomaly." Ethan Clark, his eyes fixed on the sights of his rifle, added, "We can't afford any noise. One alert, and we're all dead." Marcus nodded, breathing deeply. Every mission had its risks, but this one had a particular flavor of revenge and honor. He thought of Jason Turner, his loyalty, his untimely death, and this arms trafficking that could not go unpunished. "We're going down. Liam, secure the perimeter. Ethan, cover the entrance. Jessica, prepare your intrusion. I'll take the center. We'll stay in constant contact. No mistakes." The helicopter began its descent, and Marcus felt the ground approaching, each vibration resonating through his body. They landed a few meters from the main warehouse, where activity seemed minimal but steady. Masked figures patrolled, unaware of the imminent threat. Jessica quickly typed on her laptop keyboard. "It's done. The cameras are off for 15 minutes. We have to be quick." Marcus nodded, and the team deployed with the precision of a practiced unit. Every step was measured, every movement silent. They approached the containers where crates marked with unknown symbols were stored. Suddenly, a metallic clang sounded behind them. Liam caught his breath, and Marcus turned slowly. A figure appeared, armed and ready to fire. Before the alarm could sound, Marcus leaped forward, disabling the assailant with surgical speed. "Be careful, it's not over yet," he whispered, clenching his fist. They entered the warehouse and discovered a clandestine arms trafficking facility, much larger than the reports had suggested. Crates labeled high explosives and heavy weapons were stacked to the ceiling. Every corner was a potential threat. Marcus turned to his team. "We need to secure this equipment and collect all the evidence. But stay alert, someone is watching us. I can feel it." A palpable tension mounted, and the atmosphere grew electric. The mission was far from over, and Marcus knew that a single mistake could cost them their lives. But for Jason Turner and the honor of his men, he would stop at nothing. The warehouse seemed silent, but Marcus Noire felt the tension rising. Every crate, every shadow, was a potential trap. Lamps hanging from the ceiling cast metallic shards onto the walls, creating menacing silhouettes. As Jessica and Liam examined the crates and took photos for evidence, Marcus felt a twinge of alarm. Someone had been watching them. He glanced quickly toward the entrance and saw Captain Ryan Bennett, a former trusted ally, enter with a small group of armed mercenaries. "Ryan?" Marcus whispered incredulously. The captain smiled coldly. "Sorry, Marcus, orders changed. You were never supposed to come here. But you came anyway. You forced my hand." A sense of betrayal tore through Marcus. Ryan Bennett, whom he had trained himself and considered a brother, had just betrayed his team. The alarm was immediate, the mercenaries raised their weapons and surrounded the team. "Team, position!" Marcus yelled. In a flash, Ethan took up position, covering the entrance with his sniper rifle, while Liam and Jessica took cover behind stacks of crates. Shots rang out, echoing off metal and concrete. Every member of the team displayed perfect coordination, but the advantage in numbers was against them. Marcus neutralized the attackers with icy efficiency, all the while trying to understand why Ryan had betrayed them. Jessica, pale-faced but focused, shouted, "Marcus, we're surrounded. If we don't move now, we're done for. We're moving, together. Follow me." Marcus replied, his voice firm, impassive despite the danger. They advanced toward a side exit, using every shadow and crate as cover. The mercenaries fired, but none managed to hit the team. Marcus spotted a narrow passage between two containers and led his team through. Ryan Bennett attempted to intercept them. Marcus confronted him directly, a duel of strength and strategy. Each blow exchanged was precise and measured, but Marcus eventually overpowered Ryan, disarming him with impeccable technique. "Why?" Marcus asked, panting. Ryan smiled arrogantly. "Orders. You don't understand, but it won't change anything. I do what I have to do." Marcus felt his anger rising, but he knew he couldn't lose his composure. He bound Ryan and left him behind, while the team continued their escape through the narrow passages. Once outside, Marcus caught his breath and looked at his men. All were alive, but shocked. The betrayal had left its mark, but it had also revealed their unwavering loyalty. "We keep going. Nothing can stop us, not even those we thought were close," Marcus said, his eyes shining with determination. This betrayal had transformed the mission. It was no longer just an intelligence operation, it was now a matter of survival, honor, and revenge. And Marcus Noire was prepared to do anything to protect his men and honor Jason Turner's memory. The rain began to fall, light but persistent, as Marcus Noire's team moved away from the warehouse. The deserted streets reflected the streetlights in puddles, transforming the city into a maze of flickering lights and darkness. Each step echoed like a reminder of the fragility of life, of luck, and of loyalty. Marcus walked in front, his gaze fixed straight ahead, but his thoughts wandered to even darker memories. Jason Turner, his friend, his brother in arms, dead too soon. Jason's face returned at every turn, each shard of rain hitting his face like pinpricks of memory. He remembered the first missions he had led, the mistakes he had made, and the lives he had failed to save. Every fallen soldier, every betrayal he had suffered, every victory won at too high a price, all of it weighed on him like a silent burden. Jessica, walking beside him, broke the silence. "Marcus, you're still thinking about Jason, aren't you?" He nodded without answering immediately. The rain dripped down his face, blurring his features, but not his memories. "Yes, and every memory reminds me why we can't fail." Ethan, behind them, adjusted his rifle and whispered, "There are ghosts everywhere, Marcus, but you face them all, unlike the others." These words resonated within him. Yes, he had always faced his ghosts. In every mission, in every battle, he carried the memory of his men. Every decision, every calculated risk, was influenced by that silent loyalty and that weight he accepted as his duty. As they approached a safe rendezvous point, Marcus reflected on his military career. The battles, the strategies, the losses, all had shaped a man capable of facing the impossible. But tonight, he realized that it wasn't just the fight against the external enemy that defined him. It was also the fight against his own demons, against failure, against betrayal, against the weight of the memory of those he had lost. He paused for a moment, looking up at the gray sky. The rain intensified, but he didn't back down. His eyes burned with determination. Every mission, every life lost, every betrayal. I turn them into strength. Nothing will stop us. Jessica placed a hand on his shoulder, silent, respectful. She understood what he carried, what each of them carried in the shadow of their commitment. Ethan and Liam exchanged a look, a mixture of respect and concern. They all knew that Marcus Noire wasn't just a lieutenant colonel. He was the heart, the mind, and the flame that guided them, a man shaped by the past and determined to honor the memory of those he loved. As they reached the rendezvous point, Marcus took a deep breath. The ghosts of the past weren't chains, they were invisible allies, silent guides in the darkness. And he was ready to follow them to the end, no matter what trials lay ahead. Night had fallen completely, enveloping the area in near total darkness. Only the light of tactical flashlights and occasional thunderstorm flashes allowed the outlines of abandoned buildings and stacked containers to be distinguished. The atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation and imminent danger. Marcus Noire stood in the lead, observing the area from a hill overlooking the main warehouse. Beside him, Jessica Moore adjusted her communications equipment and night vision goggles, while Ethan Clark scanned the terrain with his sniper rifle, ready to fire at the slightest sign of hostility. Liam Reynolds, young but already seasoned, silently checked the explosives and tactical grenades. "It's now or never," Marcus murmured. His voice, low but firm, seemed to absorb all the tension of the moment. "We advance from the north. Jessica, neutralize the remaining cameras. Ethan, cover the blind spots. Liam, prepare the passage for our entry. We strike quickly and silently. No mistakes." The wind howled through the trees, partially masking their movements, and the distant rumble of thunder seemed to respond to the tension. The team cautiously descended the hill, almost gliding into the shadows of the containers. Every step was calculated, every breath controlled. As soon as they reached the warehouse, Jessica sprang into action. Her fingers danced over her laptop keyboard, disabling the remaining security systems. "Cameras disabled. We have a 6-minute window before they detect anything." Marcus signaled to Ethan, who took up position at the corner of the building, his eyes piercing the darkness through the scope of his rifle. The mercenaries, surprised by the intrusion, began to react, but Marcus and his team were already inside. The battle erupted. Gunshots cracked through the air, echoing against metal and concrete. Marcus neutralized the attackers with icy efficiency, combining close-quarters combat techniques with strategic movement. Liam planted explosive charges to stall reinforcements, while Jessica hacked into systems to further disorient them. Every second seemed to last an eternity. Explosions rocked the building, sending out bursts of light and smoke. But the team remained focused, perfectly synchronized, every move dictated by discipline and experience. In the center of the warehouse, Marcus spotted the leader of the mercenaries, a massive man armed to the teeth. Marcus's eyes met his, and an eerie silence fell for a moment, as if time had stood still. Then, in a quick and precise sequence of attacks, Marcus incapacitated the man, subduing him without firing a shot, once again demonstrating his mastery of combat and strategy. When they had secured the area, Marcus turned to his team. Their faces, marked by effort and tension, expressed both relief and fatigue. "We made it, for now. But this is just one step. They will come back. They always will." Jessica nodded, her eyes shining with adrenaline. "Then we'll be ready. Always." Marcus stared up at the night sky, the thunder slowly fading away. Flashes of memory of Jason Turner, Ryan Bennett's betrayal, and all their fallen comrades burned in his mind. Every victory, every loss, every decision would bring them closer to the ultimate goal, dismantling the arms trade and restoring justice. And he knew this was just the beginning of a long night of struggles and revelations. The next morning, Marcus Noire's team regrouped in a secure building outside the city. The atmosphere was heavy, laden with fatigue, tension, and unresolved questions. The mission had been a tactical success, but Marcus knew the real danger lay now. As he examined the evidence Jessica had collected, an uneasy feeling settled over him. Among the hacked documents and recordings, he found something that made him shudder. The arms trafficking operation was directly supported by Colonel Robert Dalton, a former military ally and Marcus's mentor. Dalton, a respected and strategically influential man, was using his authority to cover up the mercenaries and their illegal operations. Marcus remained silent for a moment, his fists clenched. Everything he had built, everything he had believed to be right, had just been called into question. Dalton wasn't just a traitor, he was a moral obstacle, a figure who had influenced his career and his values. And now Marcus had to choose: respect the hierarchy and turn a blind eye to this corruption, or act for justice and risk his career, even his life. Jessica looked at him, perceptive as always. "You know what this means, Marcus. If you act, you'll be alone against the army and their allies." "I know," Marcus replied, his voice low but determined. "But staying still would betray everything Jason and the others have given. I can't do that." Ethan, ever vigilant, added, "We're following you, Lieutenant Colonel. No matter which route you take, we'll be with you." Marcus took a deep breath. Every decision carried enormous risk. Exposing Dalton meant sparking conflict with powerful superiors and putting his team in danger. But inaction was not an option. For honor, for loyalty, and for justice, he had to move forward. "We're doing what we have to do," he said finally, his eyes shining with unwavering resolve. "We're gathering all the evidence, we're preparing our plan, and we're neutralizing Dalton and his network. No half measures. No compromises." The team nodded, silent but ready to follow. Jessica began sorting through the documents, transferring them to a secure server. Liam and Ethan checked their weapons and explosives, knowing that the upcoming fight would be more difficult than anything they'd faced so far. Marcus, alone for a moment, gazed at the sky through the building's window. His thoughts turned to Jason, to all those who had given their lives to protect justice. He knew that every choice, every sacrifice, would be guided by their memory. And he also knew that by confronting Dalton, he was crossing a line from which he could never return. The moral dilemma was clear: obey or act, respect the army or honor his principles. And Marcus Noire had already chosen: honor and justice came first. The mission to expose Dalton had taken an unpredictable turn. Marcus Noire and his team had followed clues leading to a secret cache, but something didn't add up. The air felt heavier, charged with tension, and every movement in the shadows was a threat. As they entered an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, Marcus felt the familiar instinct of alert. A figure appeared from behind a stack of crates. Before he could react, a capture net closed around him, and the room was quickly invaded by mercenaries. Jessica creates Marcus. But before she could reach her lieutenant colonel, the armed men sealed off the entrances, cutting off any escape. Ethan and Liam tried to fight back, but the mercenaries' surprise and sheer numbers were against them. Marcus was dragged to a dark, makeshift prison room. The chains bit into his wrists, but his mind remained intact. Every muscle was tense, every thought focused on escape strategy. He knew giving in to fear was impossible. He had survived far more perilous situations. In the shadows, he heard the mercenaries' footsteps and the clanging of weapons. One of them, a large man named Darius, stepped forward and stared at him cruelly. "Lieutenant Colonel Noire, you've caused a lot of trouble. It's time to pay." Marcus didn't answer. His mind analyzed every detail of the room: the doors, the locks, the windows, the blind spots. He noticed a small air vent in the corner, barely visible. Every detail mattered. Fortunately, Marcus wasn't alone in his thinking. Jessica, Ethan, and Liam, still outside but monitoring the situation with Jessica's gadgets and hacking devices, began coordinating an infiltration. Jessica whispered into the earpiece, "Marcus, I see a possibility. Prepare yourself." Marcus gave a small smile. The mercenaries thought they had him, but they didn't know the patience and ingenuity of a man who had been through war. Every chain, every lock, every angle of surveillance was a piece of the puzzle he would solve. Over the next few hours, Marcus devised a meticulous escape plan. He used his mechanical knowledge to loosen his chains, observed the guards' routines, and calculated every move with near mathematical precision. His thoughts remained focused: escape, protect his team, and continue the mission. And when the moment came, Marcus moved like a shadow, using the vent to surprise the mercenaries, neutralize Darius, and achieve freedom. But he knew this victory was only a prelude. The true danger still awaited him, more intense and more personal. The warehouse was a chaos of smoke and flashes of light. The explosions set off by Liam and Jessica's tactical fireworks had disoriented the mercenaries, giving them barely enough time to react. Marcus Noire, gliding like a shadow through the debris, guided his team with impressive military precision. "Everyone in position," Marcus yelled. His voice cut through the din, imposing a clear and immediate order. Ethan, stationed on a raised catwalk, covered their rear with icy calm. Every shot was precise, eliminating threats without wasting ammunition. Liam, agile and quick, opened passages through the debris, allowing the team to advance towards the exit. Jessica, meanwhile, manipulated the electronic systems, jamming the mercenaries' communications and triggering false alarms to sow further confusion. Marcus felt the adrenaline rush. Every move was calculated, every decision weighed. One false step could cost them their lives. He neutralized 2 assailants with lightning speed, using his close-quarters combat experience. His body was a precision instrument, his movements a deadly dance dictated by years of perilous missions. In the center of the warehouse, an armored vehicle was waiting for them, parked in anticipation. Marcus glanced over and gestured to the armored vehicle. "Quick!" The rain, now falling in torrents, made the ground slippery. But nothing slowed the team down. Explosions continued to resonate, sending sparks and flames flying into the night air. The escape was taking on the feel of an action movie, with each member of the team playing their part to perfection. As they reached the vehicle, Marcus noticed one last obstacle, a group of heavily armed mercenaries determined to stop them. Without hesitation, he coordinated a swift and synchronized assault. Ethan neutralized them remotely, Liam created a diversion with charges, and Jessica activated a jamming field to cut off their communications. Marcus, at the center of the chaos, eliminated the remaining attackers with surgical efficiency. The armored vehicle's engine roared as they pulled away from the warehouse, leaving behind a landscape of flames, smoke, and confusion. The team, panting but alive, exchanged glances of relief and pride. Marcus knew this spectacular victory was only a prelude to the challenges to come. "We're not out of the woods yet," Marcus said, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "Dalton's not done with us. And we all know that." Jessica nodded, her adrenaline still pumping. "We'll be ready. Always." In the tank, Marcus looked at his men and felt a quiet pride. They had survived, and each had played their part to perfection. But one question remained: how many more times could they face such a cunning and determined enemy? And above all, how far would they be willing to go for justice and the honor of those they had lost? Night still enveloped them, but Marcus Noire knew one thing: no force, no betrayal, no explosion could ever break their cohesion. And the battle for Dalton and justice had only just begun. The sun was barely rising over the city, tinting the sky with shades of red and gold, when Marcus Noire and his team arrived at Dalton's main warehouse. This once discreet and nearly invisible place had transformed into a fortress after the alarm caused by the team's escape. But Marcus had no intention of backing down. "Here we are. No false steps, no mercy," Marcus said, his voice deep and determined. The team nodded, focused, silent, each feeling the adrenaline pumping through their veins. The approach was methodical. Jessica disabled the surveillance systems and jammed Dalton's communications, plunging the fortress into relative silence. Ethan and Liam took up strategic positions to cover all angles, while Marcus mentally planned every move. Behind the armored doors, Dalton was waiting for them, accompanied by his mercenaries and Ryan Bennett, always loyal to his personal interests. Colonel Dalton smiled coldly. "Marcus, you've arrived exactly where I wanted you to be." Marcus didn't answer. His dark eyes stared at Dalton, burning with determination. He knew every second would count, that every decision could save or cost a life. The assault began. Gunfire erupted in the warehouse, echoing off the metal walls. Marcus moved like a shadow, neutralizing the mercenaries with precision and speed. Ethan and Liam eliminated the threats from a distance, while Jessica used her technological expertise to sow confusion and disable security devices. Dalton tried to escape through a secret trapdoor, but Marcus reached him before he disappeared. The two men faced each other, each sizing the other up. You betrayed loyalty and honor, Dalton, it's time to pay for that. Dalton sneered, but Marcus showed no hesitation. With one swift, precise movement, he incapacitated Dalton and knocked him to the ground, ending his threat. Ryan Bennett, seeing his mentor defeated, attempted to escape, but Liam and Ethan intercepted his escape, effectively immobilizing him. Marcus looked at his former ally, feeling both disappointment and determination. You've chosen your side, Ryan. Now face the consequences. When calm returned, Marcus and his team surveyed the chaos they had left behind, mercenaries neutralized, evidence recovered, and a once impenetrable fortress now at their mercy. Jessica approached, her face marked by effort but beaming. It's over. Dalton is out of the game. Justice can now be served. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the mission ease slightly. Yes, but what we did here, we will never forget. Every life lost, every betrayal, every battle led us here. And that, it makes us stronger. The sun continued to rise, illuminating the ruined warehouse and the team standing there, victorious but aware that the war against injustice was never truly over. Marcus Noire had kept his promise, he had honored Jason, protected his men, and restored justice. But in his heart, he knew that beyond this victory, new battles awaited them. And he would be ready, as always. The sun bathed the city in golden light as Marcus Noire and his team left the destroyed warehouse. The battle was over, Dalton and his mercenaries neutralized, and the evidence of their crimes handed over to the proper authorities. Justice, long delayed, had finally been restored. The team marched in silence, exhausted but proud. Jessica Moore, ever attentive to detail, checked the data on her handheld device one last time. Ethan Clark holstered his rifle with precision, and Liam Reynolds surveyed the ruins with a mixture of satisfaction and awe. Marcus paused for a moment, gazing at the horizon. Memories of Jason Turner came back to him, vivid and painful, but this time tinged with pride. Every decision, every risk, every sacrifice had been for him, for his honor and that of all those who had fallen. We kept our promise, Marcus murmured. We did what Jason would have wanted. Jessica placed a hand on his shoulder in understanding. And we will continue to do so. Because this isn't just a victory for us, it's a lesson for anyone who believes they can betray and corrupt without consequence. Liam gave a small smile, and Ethan nodded. Their cohesion had survived betrayals, battles, and moral dilemmas. They had proven that with loyalty, discipline, and courage, nothing was impossible. Marcus then went to the military cemetery where Jason Turner lay buried. He placed a hand on the headstone, his eyes shining with a mixture of respect and sadness. We did the right thing, brother. Your sacrifice was not in vain. The light wind caressed his face, as if the world were responding to him. Marcus knew that, even after the victories and battles, he would remain marked by the memory of his men and the difficult choices he had had to make. But he also knew that he had acted with honor, and that was all that mattered. As the team stood behind him, Marcus Noire stood up, his gaze fixed on the future. Justice had triumphed, honor had been preserved, and a silent promise was made, to protect the innocent, honor the fallen, and face all injustice with courage and loyalty. And in that soft morning light, the team marched together, invincible, ready for whatever battles lay ahead. Marcus knew that no matter what the future held, they were ready. Because when you fight for justice and honor, no past mistakes can stop you.